heard me? I called you a toadstool. And do you know what a toadstool is?
We stay in the same cabin because we're both afraid of the dark, Sonny. Come on, friend. Let's go scare ourselves.
Most people remember him as the man with the rifle, the tall, square-jawed cowboy who rode across their television screens 5 seasons in a row and became one of the most recognized faces in American entertainment. But Chuck Connors was never just an actor. Behind the legend of Lucas McCain was a life so unusual, so full of detours, contradictions, and genuinely extraordinary moments that most people who think they know his story are only seeing a fraction of it. Today, we're going through all of it. The kid from Brooklyn who wanted to be a Dodger. To understand Chuck Connors, you have to start in Brooklyn, because Brooklyn made him in almost every sense that matters. Kevin Joseph Aloysius Connors was born on April 10, 1921, in the Bay Ridge neighborhood of Brooklyn. His parents were Irish immigrants from Newfoundland. His father, Alan, worked the docks as a longshoreman, and his mother, Marcella, held the household together through years of real financial hardship. During the Great Depression, the family was at one point reduced to an unheated apartment. Money was scarce, and stability was not guaranteed. But young Kevin was a natural athlete. Baseball was his first love, and the Brooklyn Dodgers were his religion. He grew up playing sandlot ball for the Bay Ridge Celtics, dreaming of one day pulling on a Dodgers uniform. That wasn't a fantasy. It was the organizing principle of his childhood. His athletic ability earned him a scholarship to Adelphi Academy, a door that would have been completely closed to a longshoreman's son otherwise. From Adelphi, he moved to Seton Hall University on another athletic scholarship, playing both baseball and basketball. It was at Seton Hall that Kevin Connors became Chuck Connors. Playing first base, he had a habit of yelling to the pitcher, "Chuck it to me, baby!" And the nickname stuck so completely, he eventually made it legal. He left Seton Hall without finishing his degree, drawn away by a professional baseball contract. Then, in 1942, he enlisted in the U.S. Army, serving as a tank instructor at Fort Campbell and later at West Point, where his students included Doc Blanchard and Glenn Davis, the legendary Army football duo who won back-to-back national championships in 1944 and 1945. He was discharged in 1946 and picked up where he'd left off, chasing the baseball dream that had never stopped pulling at him. He had the dream, the nickname, and the athletic ability to back it up. But what happened when he actually tried to make it professionally? And just how far did he get? One of only 13, the athlete who played 2 sports professionally. What happened to Chuck Connors after the war is one of the more remarkable athletic stories in American sports history. Not because he became a superstar in either sport, but because of what he actually managed to do across both of them. After his Army discharge, Connors returned to professional baseball, bouncing around the minor leagues as a first baseman. But he was also a legitimate basketball prospect. His 6 inches 5 feet frame and athleticism made him a natural fit for the game. And when the newly formed Basketball Association of America came calling, he signed with the Boston Celtics for the 1946-47 season. On paper, playing professional basketball was never his primary ambition, but he did something in a Boston Garden warm-up session that has become a genuine piece of sports trivia history. Before the Celtics' first home game of their inaugural season, Connors took a set shot during pre-game practice and shattered the glass backboard. Not a dunk, which is what typically destroys backboards. A set shot. The backboard had apparently been improperly installed, and Connors' shot found its weakness before a single minute of official play had been played. He became the first professional basketball player in history to break a backboard, and he did it before the game even started. He played 53 games for Boston before transitioning back to baseball. Then began the long minor league journey: Montreal, Rochester, Norfolk, Newark, Newport News, Mobile. The classic grind of a player good enough to keep getting contracts, not quite good enough to stick at the top level. He finally got his shot with the Brooklyn Dodgers in May 1949, the team he'd dreamed about his entire life. He appeared in one game, had one at-bat, and was sent back to Montreal. He got another chance with the Chicago Cubs in 1951, appearing in 66 games as a first baseman. During that season, he hit a home run off Sal Magallay, a pitcher in the middle of one of his finest seasons, winning 23 games in the National League. The following year, Connors found himself with the Cubs' Triple-A affiliate, the Los Angeles Angels, and it was there, playing baseball in the shadow of Hollywood, that everything changed. Here's the thing about Chuck Connors as a professional athlete. He was genuinely accomplished, genuinely skilled, and he never became a household name in either sport. His basketball averages were modest. His MLB's LB career totaled fewer than 70 games. But he is one of only 13 athletes in the history of American professional sports to have played in both the National Basketball Association and Major League Baseball. In a career full of remarkable footnotes, that one belongs near the top. When they put a headstone on his grave at San Fernando Mission Cemetery, they included the logos of all three organizations he'd played for: the Boston Celtics, the Brooklyn Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs. That tells you everything about how he saw his own story. He'd made history in two sports and never become a star in either. So how exactly does a journeyman athlete with a flair for the dramatic end up walking into Hollywood, and who was responsible for opening that door? How Hollywood found him in the outfield. The transition from professional athlete to Hollywood actor is one of the stranger pivots in entertainment history, and it happened to Chuck Connors in a way that almost nobody plans for. In 1952, while playing for the Los Angeles Angels, Connors was doing what he always did on a baseball diamond: entertaining. He was known for cartwheel slides, for taunting umpires with Shakespearean quotes, for a theatrical presence that made watching him play feel like watching a performance. An MGM casting director in the stands spotted him and was struck by something, not the baseball, but the man playing it. He was offered a small part in the Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn film Pat and Mike, a police captain, nothing significant. But it was enough of a foothold. His real breakthrough came when he ran into Burt Lancaster outside auditions for South Sea Woman. Lancaster took him under his wing, practiced lines with him, and Connors landed the role. He credited Lancaster with giving him his first real acting opportunity and never forgot it. From there, he built steadily, appearing opposite John Wayne, Gregory Peck, and Charlton Heston, accumulating credits across the anthology shows that defined early American television, including General Electric Theater, hosted by Ronald Reagan. He was doing well, but he hadn't yet found the role that would define everything. That was about to change. The parts were getting better, and the names around him were getting bigger. But none of it had yet produced the role that would change everything. So what was it? And how did he almost turn it down? The Rifleman, a show that shouldn't have worked, but did. In 1958, Chuck Connors beat 40 other actors for the lead role in a new ABC Western called The Rifleman. The show was created by Arnold Lavin and developed by a young writer named Sam Peckinpah, the same Sam Peckinpah who would go on to become one of the most influential directors in American film history with movies like The Bulge Bunch and Straw Dogs. The writing on The Rifleman reflected Peckinpah's instincts even then. It was darker, more morally complicated, and more emotionally honest than most westerns of the era. The premise was deceptively simple. Lucas McCain, played by Connors, was a widowed rancher raising his young son Mark, played by Johnny Crawford, in the New Mexico territory of the 1880s. The Rifleman of the title referred to McCain's modified Winchester rifle, which he could draw and fire with unusual speed and precision. The opening of every episode showed McCain spinning that rifle in a way that became one of the most iconic images in television history. But the show worked for reasons that went beyond the rifle twirling and the Western setting. It was, as Connors himself described it, a love story between a father and his son. In an era when divorce was still a genuine social taboo, and most family dramas presented two-parent households as the default, The Rifleman put a single widowed father at the center of its story and asked audiences to invest in that relationship as the emotional core of everything that happened. It was groundbreaking in a way that wasn't fully appreciated at the time. The actual casting process had an interesting wrinkle. Connors had initially been offered a contract for 39 episodes at a rate lower than what he was already making doing freelance acting, so he turned it down. Then the producers of The Rifleman took their children to see Old Yeller, a film in which Connors played a strong, emotionally present father figure. Watching him in that role, they decided he was exactly who they needed for Lucas McCain. They came back with a better offer, and this time, Connors said yes. The show rocketed to number 4 in the national ratings. Connors appeared on the cover of TV Guide 5 times. From 1943 onward, and with The Rifleman now running, the Motion Picture Herald had named Westerns among the dominant programming on American television, and Connors was squarely at the center of that moment. He won a TV Champion Award and a Golden Globe for his work on the show. His relationship with Johnny Crawford off-screen was as genuine as the one they portrayed on camera. Crawford, who had been a Mouseketeer before the show, later described Connors as someone he admired tremendously, someone he was very fond of from the start. They remained close friends until Connors' death decades later. Crawford brought his baseball equipment to the set because he was already a fan of the game, and discovering that his on-screen father had been a professional baseball player only deepened his admiration. The show ran 5 seasons and won 68 episodes before being canceled in 1963, largely because its final season put it directly opposite Lucille Ball's return to television on The Lucy Show, and not many things in 1962 could compete with Lucille Ball returning to television. The show made him one of the most recognized faces in America. But the strangest chapter of Chuck Connors' life had nothing to do with Hollywood. It had to do with the Cold War, a communist leader, and a pair of revolvers. The moment a Cold War enemy became a fan. Of all the extraordinary things that happened to Chuck Connors over the course of his life, nothing is quite as strange as what happened in June 1973. The day he met Leonid Brezhnev, the leader of the Soviet Union. The Rifleman had been one of the very few American television shows permitted to air on Soviet television during the Cold War. The reason was simple. It was Brezhnev's favorite show. The leader of the USSR, at the height of superpower tension, with nuclear weapons pointed at each other across the Iron Curtain, was a devoted fan of an ABC Western about a cowboy raising his son in New Mexico. When Brezhnev visited the United States in 1973, President Nixon hosted a party in San Clemente and invited a range of celebrities. White House Press Secretary Ron Ziegler pulled Connors aside and told him, "Brezhnev is a fan of yours," and asked him to do something special when they met. Connors had prepared a gift, a matching pair of Colt single-action Army revolvers, presented on behalf of everyone who had worked on the show. Brezhnev was genuinely delighted. But what happened next went beyond diplomatic pleasantries. As Brezhnev was boarding his plane to leave, he spotted Connors in the crowd, came back across the tarmac, and wrapped his arms around him in a bear hug that lifted the actor clean off the ground. The image of the Soviet leader running back to embrace an American cowboy actor is one of the more surreal photographs of the Cold War era. The relationship didn't stop there. Brezhnev invited Connors to visit the Soviet Union, and in December 1973, Connors traveled there, a private citizen walking into the heart of the Cold War's other side on the strength of a television show. When Brezhnev died in 1982, Connors petitioned the U.S. government to join the official American delegation to his funeral. They denied the request. One final detail that makes this whole story feel almost scripted. Brezhnev and Connors died on the same date, November 10, exactly 10 years apart. He'd charmed the leader of the Soviet Union with a pair of six-shooters. But back home, the ride was getting bumpier. So what happened to Chuck Connors once the cameras stopped rolling on the Rifleman for good? Life after the Rifleman, the struggles and the reinventions. The end of the Rifleman in 1963 created a problem Connors spent the next decade working to solve. He was too famous in the wrong way. The same quality that had made Lucas McCain so beloved made it very difficult for audiences and studios to accept him as anyone else. In Hollywood, being strongly identified with one iconic character is a double-edged thing. It means you've built something that matters, and it means you may spend years trying to escape it. He followed the Rifleman with Branded in 1965, a Western series about an Army cavalry soldier wrongly accused of cowardice. The writing was strong, but the show lasted only 2 seasons. He moved between film and television throughout the late 1960s and early 1970s, never quite recapturing the cultural footprint he'd had before. His personal life was equally unsettled. His first marriage to Elizabeth Jane Riddell, mother of his 4 sons, ended in 1961. He married actress Kamala Devi in 1963. That lasted until 1972. A third marriage to Faith Quabius in 1977 lasted only 3 years. The professional turning point came in 1977, when he received an Emmy nomination for Roots, playing a brutal slave owner, a role as far from Lucas McCain as possible. The nomination acknowledged what people who'd worked with him always knew. Connors was a substantially more versatile actor than his most famous role suggested. He continued working through the 1980s and raised over $400,000 for the Angel View Crippled Children's Foundation through his annual charity golf tournament in Palm Springs, where Frank Sinatra was a regular participant. 3 marriages, an Emmy nomination, a Cold War friendship, and a charity he built from the ground up. So who exactly was the man underneath all of it? And what did the people closest to him actually say about him when nobody was watching? The man behind the rifle, who Chuck Connors really was, 30 years after his death. The full picture of Chuck Connors is richer and stranger than any single role could contain. He made it to both the NBA and Major League Baseball, something only 13 people in the history of American professional sports have ever done. He shattered the first backboard in professional basketball history with a set shot during warm-ups. He played 1 game for the Brooklyn Dodgers, the team he'd loved since childhood, and watched that dream slip away. He pivoted into acting and built a 40-year career that outlasted his athletic one by decades. He was friends with Burt Lancaster, Ronald Reagan, and Richard Nixon. He wrote poetry. He was described by everyone who knew him as warm, generous, and genuinely present, a man who made people feel like they mattered. Johnny Crawford spoke of him with uncomplicated love until the end. Oprah Winfrey, David Cassidy, and Bill Mumy all described him as a childhood television hero. He died on November 10, 1992, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center from lung cancer. He was 71. He was buried at San Fernando Mission Cemetery, his headstone carrying the logos of the Boston Celtics, the Brooklyn Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs. Not a studio, not a network. The teams he played for. Because underneath everything, Chuck Connors was always still the kid from Brooklyn who wanted to play baseball. That's the full story of Chuck Connors, from the sandlots of Bay Ridge to the Boston Garden, from the Brooklyn Dodgers to a Hollywood ranch, from a California party in 1973 to a bear hug from the leader of the Soviet Union. He was one of the most genuinely singular people American entertainment ever produced, and the man behind Lucas McCain was more interesting than the character ever got to be. If this video gave you a clearer picture of who Chuck Connors really was, hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds and genuinely helps this channel grow. Subscribe for more deep dives into the real lives behind the legends. And drop a comment below. Did you grow up watching The Rifleman? Did you know any of this before today? I read every single comment down there, and I'd love to hear from you.